to our channel. I'm Vic.
I'm Nick.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. And today we're looking at the two-player only game, Beer and Bread. This is a game designed by Scott Helms and published by Capstone Games. Nick is going to go through how you play, and then we're going to give our reviews.
All right, welcome to the table. Here's set up for a game of Beer and Bread. In Beer and Bread, you're going to play through 6 rounds that are called years, and they'll have 2 different types of years. You'll have fruitful years, and you'll have dry years. Those are represented by the green and the red on these rounds, so there's going to be 3 of each. We start with a fruitful year, and what that means is we are going to have these resources here in the green side is how many resources in each of these fields. So we're going to have 7 here, 8 here, 6 here, and 6 there. And then in the dry, it'll be less plentiful. So you're going to see these are lesser numbers. So whenever we're in the dry season, we're going to have this many resources in these fields. To play the game, you're going to go through a few phases. First off, the seeding phase is already done in the setup. Seeding phase is just putting the resources out. The next is the card phase. We're going to deal out 5 cards to each player. And there's 2 different types of cards. There's brewery cards and there's bakery cards. And the backs actually show that right there. And the fronts show it as well with the bread here and the beer there. And these cards are multi-use cards. So when we're done with the first 2 phases, which is passing out cards and seeding, the next phase is going to be the action phase where everything happens here. And these cards have 3 different uses. You can harvest and store. Harvest and store, you would get the resources on the top, so you can play this card face up into your area and then collect the 2 resources shown from the fields. You will not collect them from the supply. Every time you do, you're going to collect them from the field. When you return them, they will go to the supply. They will not go back to the field. So the first thing you can do is, let's say you wanted to harvest. Well, you can go ahead and harvest, and these resources that you take are going to go on your side of the board in these squares on this little mark right there. You can see there's 9 areas to store in your storehouse. It would just take up those. So now 2 of your 9 are gone. They're reused. That is one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is you can use the action here, which is essentially order fulfillment that I'm sure you're used to in games, but this is called producing and selling. So if you have these resources, you can turn this card in. At the end, it'll be victory points. When you do that, it has to go on the correct spot. There are 2 spots here. This is a brewery spot, so it's going to go in the brewery. If you would turn these into the supply, put this over here face down, showing that it's complete. Another option is to upgrade and clean. The third and final option, upgrade and clean. So if you notice there's only a spot for 1 of each. I could not play another brewery right here. I could play a bakery, but if this was my situation and I wanted to play another brewery, the only way I can possibly do that without a card that gives me that ability is to upgrade and clean. When you upgrade, you use the ability at the bottom. So it shows a symbol of where you're going to put this on the board, wherever you see that symbol, and that is going to be all the way over here, and it'll have an effect. You're going to take that effect for the rest of the game. It might be in an ongoing effect. It might be an end game effect. It might be like this, more storage and so forth. Or an end game would be all the way here at the right, and give you points for certain things you accomplish. So you're going to go ahead and use this card to give you an ability. And not only that, when you upgrade, you clean as well. So this card will go off to the side and create room for you. And you will be able to score. Like I said, you're going to be able to score at the end. Even if it's here at the end, you're still going to be able to score those. You just cannot add on to that. You have to upgrade and clean your brewery and bakery in order to go ahead and do that. When you do the upgrade, you clean both. So if I had 2, they would both go to the side and clear room for more orders to be fulfilled. So those are your 3 options on your turn. So let's go through how the game plays. We have our 5 cards. I can do one of the actions. Let's say it's the harvest. I already have the resources out here. Let's say it's the harvest. And in a fruitful year, I will then pass these cards to my opponent. And my opponent will pass their cards when they're done to me. So we'll have 4 cards. And we'll keep doing this until we're out of cards. The difference is when we're in a dry season, we keep the cards in our hand. Another thing that's different with the dry season, not just the seeding, not just the fact that we're passing cards, whereas we're not on the other ones, In the dry season, we have 3 slots over here that are added here. So we can interchange our hand with some cards that are here. If you really wanted a certain resource or ability or an order, you can swap one of your cards that you have in your hand and immediately do the action of one of those. So you're going to swap it, a straight swap, take that. This one goes here, and now you have to do something with this card immediately. So on your turn, you have that, and that is only in the dry era. And again, there is no passing back and forth, and you can see that's represented right here to remind you that in fruitful seasons, you're going to be able to pass back and forth, but in dry seasons, your hand is your hand. A couple other differences between the two, the fruitful and the dry. One is that when you harvest cards in the fruitful, you're gonna use those cards in the dry seasons. So if I had these two harvested, I'm then going to collect these two when it's the dry season and use them again, be it for harvesting or for orders or for upgrades. So when we hit another season, we draw back up to 5 in our hand, but those 2 that I had have to be counted toward that 5, and then I'll draw my 3 that I need. That only happens in the dry season where we collect these. At the end of the dry season, we can discard the ones that are harvested because they're not going to come back into our hand again. Just when we use them to harvest in the summer do they go back into our hand in the dry season. And other than that, we're going to pass the windmill, the first player marker, to whoever has the fewest resources in their store. If it's a tie, then it will just go to the other player. We're going to discard these after the dry season. And that's it. We're going to play 6 rounds. You're going to get points on this sheet. You're going to get points for the breweries and the bakery cards that you have completed. You're also going to get points for any card that was in your end game area. And whoever has the highest of the low category is going to win. So you'll have a number here represented for your breweries and your bakeries. You're going to take the lowest number, and that is your final score. So you have to focus on both things. If you only focus on one, you're going to have a 0 because you didn't do anything here. So focus on both things. Lowest number is who's going to win the game, and that's how you play Beer and Bread. Let's go back up top, and Vic and I will give our thoughts.
All right, thank you so much for the teach, Nick, of Beer and Bread. So this is a 2-player only game. We are going to start off with the game flow.
I think it's really good. I think this is a big positive for this game. It does flow nicely. Once you learn it, it does have a nice click to it. You have a few choices, and it's because the actions are really snappy as long as you know what you're going to do. Of course, there is some thinkiness, which is a good thing here. It's not a game that plays itself. It's a game that you have to consider a lot of different things, and those considerations are good.
Yeah, and they kind of span off of each other. So when you change from the drafting to then using the cards that you harvested, or if you choose to put out an ability that lets you, for instance, discard some of the cards that you used for harvest, or you get an item at the beginning, or you have more storage. It's very interesting in the game flow, the decisions that you get to make.
Yeah, there's no rule that's going to be a hang-up that's like, oh, that didn't belong, or that kind of took away from the game, or fiddly. We use that word a lot.
It doesn't seem that way, yeah. Downtime, I would say there's not much of it. If I had to think about it, we really, nobody takes too long in their action. You're just really doing something quickly, and that's it. Move to the next person.
Yeah. Maybe your first game, there'll be some downtime as you have a lot to think about. But after your first game, I feel like it's really quick. I'm harvesting. I'm taking these things, and that's it. You go ahead. And sometimes you're already done. Like, by the time the other person just went, you've already finished. Like, you're already wrapping up your actions.
Yeah.
It's so quick.
I find that the first round can go really quickly, as opposed to, like, the later rounds when you're really trying to think of, like, how can I maximize this? Or I have 3 brews and I need to get an equal amount of breads or the same points. Like, you're really doing a calculation.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because then it limits what you want to do. You have to eliminate some of the beer if you've done too many brewery cards, and you have to okay, well, I have to stop getting these hops because now I need to focus on this bread.
And it's interesting because you can have a scorecard as well for the end of the game that's going to amplify if it's a 4 or 5 value, or there's different conditions that you can meet that will add to the scores. So you have to also calculate that. So that's fun too. But yeah, I think that it definitely takes longer in your later rounds. Mechanics.
Mechanics that has that element of Crown of Amara, a game where you can't focus all on one thing. You have to do both tracks.
Yeah.
Whatever your lower one is your final score. It has that. There are a few games that do that, but it has that, which I enjoy. You can't really hamper down on one thing. Kind of like even a game like Rajas of the Ganges and Arc Nova. Yeah, they don't intersect, but you still got to focus on both because where they meet is where they're going to end.
Be where it matters.
This isn't that. This is more of the Crown of Amara method, where you have to, focus on both because they're a race, and whatever your lowest score is what you're going to finish with. Heaven and Ale does that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like it, and I think the mechanics are good. The way you're gonna. It also has things in La Granja. I keep referencing different games that we love, so that's a good sign. La Granja has those multi-use cards. You can use them for the bonuses on them. The same as this. This feels like La Granja Junior almost, which is a compliment because I love La Granja.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you think about the cards and what are you going to use this for? But this has the brew or the bread I really want to make with the. If I just hold on, but I really want to harvest it for now. Can I do both? Can I just harvest it and then afterwards maybe I'll get to redeem it? So there's some forward thinking there that make the game fun, and I like how we switch it up and we do a draft in one round and then another round you're retaining those cards. You can trade with the cards that are out. That I like that too.
It's also interesting in this game that when you're getting those abilities, you're clearing out the cards. But at the beginning, you kind of want to put the abilities out, but it doesn't clear anything for you. So you're eliminating that perk that you usually get just because the cards that you want, they're going to last you through the whole game, and you want to get them out there immediately. Like, okay, whenever I do this, I get 2, or whatever it might be, where I can exchange 2 for anything or something like that. You want to have that ability all game, but it doesn't give you the other bonus when you do it too early.
Yeah. So mechanics are pretty strong in this game, I would say. Randomness, there is some, obviously you're at the mercy of some cards that you're going to get, but there are ways that you can trade them out. You can use them for so many different things that I think it really mitigates, like with the fact that they're multi-purpose cards, kind of handles the randomness.
Yeah, I'll give this one a neutral because it is at the mercy of cards. If nothing on the table is going to produce what you need, you're kind of stuck, If you really need water, there's no way to, unless you have a card that lets you do it, you're not going to be able to get water that whole round because the cards aren't there and you don't have an ability that gives you water in any fashion. Yeah. So there is a luck factor there, and I did feel that in the second game we played, where I actually, the whole round, I couldn't get a particular resource and I needed it for something I was working on. So it's like, okay, well, that's got to go to the back burner, and now I got to readjust a little bit, and it's going to hamper your score a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that too. Replayability, very strong, I think, in this game. The multi-use cards, the fact that you have to cover so many bases when you're playing. Like, you need to be considering so many things that it feels fresh when you play it. I don't see it being an issue.
I don't know. It's hard to say. We've played it twice, and I like it a lot. There are plays of it. I don't know if it's going to get old. It might. To me, I think the replayability, I'm going to score to neutral for now, and I'll have to see how it plays, because it's 6 rounds, and it's not going to be wildly different. I'm going to score neutral right now.
Oh, I could see that, and I kind of realized that as I was saying what I said.
Yeah. I'm not sure about it. We'll see.
Scalability. You want to go first?
It's a negative. It's only a 2-player game. I mean, you limit yourself. If you only need a 2-player game, awesome. That doesn't matter. But if you're just talking about a category like scalability, it's a big negative because there's only one scenario in which you play it. It's with 2 players.
Yeah. Ditto. Table hog. Nope. Not a table hog whatsoever.
No, not at all. Nothing there.
That's
good. That's a positive.
Yeah, and the theme, it is there, I guess, if you think about the ingredients you're putting towards each beer or brew, and I guess. Neutral. But we're not theme people, so we should not speak it of the
unless it's a really strong theme, then we're probably just going to say neutral.
Say neutral, yeah, move on. Table presence. It's fair. It's nice.
It feels like an older game.
Yeah,
but it's fine. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't look ugly.
Yeah.
It just looks like a game that was made. Oh, I don't know. It feels like a classic almost, but not like a super dated classic. Just a classic that is decent. Like, the art's fine. Everything's fine about it. There's nothing that looks so terrible like an old trash Euro that just can't stand to look at. It's a fine looking Euro.
And the components, I would say, you got your wooden meeple tokens, tokens for food and the ingredients. So that, I can appreciate that instead of cardboard tokens anytime I can get
good.
that. So
it's not great, it's good.
Yeah. The cards seem fine too. Price, value.
Good. What did I pay? $24, I think. American, and I think that's fine. I think that's about what you'd want to pay for a 2-player game in today's market. I think the cost for this one is fair. I don't have any issue.
Setup time, it's not bad, but there is time that you have to adjust the goods that are out.
Yeah, that's during the game.
So that is something
Between
to think
rounds?
about. There is some setup there, but it's
I think the setup's fine though. You can pull it out and play pretty quick.
It's not as bad as some of the things that Nick has said. I shouldn't
Just
say
said
we.
the Great Wall.
I stopped myself before I said we.
I think the setup is a pro overall. It's quick.
Yeah. The game length, I think it's good. I think it seems
30
snappy.
to 40 minutes.
Yeah. We can get through a couple of games. It's fun.
Yeah, the game length it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's 6 rounds, and the 6 rounds are pretty quick. It's over before you know it sometimes, especially as you learn the game and the reactions get super quick. I think a game length is somewhere between 30 and 40 on average.
I wanted more beer and bread.
Yeah, a couple more rounds.
Yeah.
It does go a little quick once you know the game so well, the reactions are so quick, like boom, you're out of the round already. So
Yeah,
I can see that.
definitely. Complexity, I didn't find it too complex, but there is going to be consideration. And if, the first time we played, I knew that the end scoring was going to be between the beer and the bread, but I still just didn't do...
Just went for the points?
Yeah, I went for the points, not really thinking about it. So I think that somebody new to games like that may really need to understand that they have to do both. And there were times I even made a mistake where I went to go brew something, but there was already something in the brew spot. So these little things that maybe somebody might find difficult, that would make them think a little bit more than just... Because when he first explained it to me, I thought we were just fulfilling orders. And I'm like, okay, get some tokens and cash in like a Spice Road type thing. But then I realized it was a little bit more than that.
Okay.
Because there's a little more strategy to it.
Okay. I think the complexity is a pro. I don't think I'd have a hard time explaining this. Whether or not people make errors, I mean, that could happen for sure. Maybe watch somebody, make sure they're evening out, they're going for both things. If you see them, they're going all straight brewery, you mentioned something, you don't want to do these baking. It's nice that the cards themselves show you that too.
Yeah.
On the backs, it shows you, okay, this is a bread card or a bakery card. And, I don't find it too complex, no.
Yeah, you probably won't have to teach it to anybody else because
yeah,
it's
I don't
too
think so.
lonely.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Never have to deal with
Unless
that.
I want to let somebody borrow it, and then I can try to teach them a real quick run through.
Is it fun? Do you find it fun?
I do. I think this one is good. I think my plays of it so far have been really enjoyable. I think the snappy turns help it. It's a huge asset to this game, and it reminds me of LeGrand Jr. So I can't fault it for that. It has a charm to it.
Yeah, I can see it.
I have fun with it.
I think it's fun as well. I have enjoyed it. I like how quickly we can get through it, especially when we mix it in with games that are a little bit more in depth and have a lot more consideration. It's nice to not have to bust out a rule book every moment to try to figure stuff out. It seemed enjoyable.
It'd be cool to have a 4-player version of this, a 4-player beer and bread. That'd be nice because it's a game I would like to have as a filler, for a company. But as it is, it's just a great game that Vic and I will enjoy. So score time, Vic.
My score is an 8.1. I enjoy it. I like it as a 2-player game. I would want to keep it.
I feel like we've been on a run of you scoring games higher than me, like a run for a while, right? Doesn't it feel like you've been scoring games higher?
I think a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I've been a little higher on stuff.
All right, 8-5 for me. It's my turn. 8-5. I like it a little bit more than Vic.
Granja.
The Granja factor, which is one of my top 10 games of all time.
Yeah.
So this one rubs off on it. It's not La Granja, but it can play really quick, and I can play just with Vic, and it's made for it. It's catered to a 2-player only experience. I think it's a good score for a 2-player only game, which not necessarily the best genre of games. Some of those, they're just not as fulfilling, as rewarding of an experience. This one, I think, fits really nicely in the category of a 2-player only.
Yeah.
And I like it for that for 8.5.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this review. If you liked it, please click the like, thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more great game reviews. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.